Hello everybody, the iLord Root here, and welcome to the start of a tutorial series for Prison Architect. For those of you who don't know, this game is very much like Dwarf Fortress, and as the name would tend to imply, the main difference is that you are trying to build a prison and manage the prisoners therein. Well, I have here a prison that I've built previously, and this kind of gives you an idea of what you might be able to do with such a prison. If we go to the reports, we can see that the prison has a value of $3.5 million. And we could sell it if we want to, but we're not going to do that. Instead, what we're going to do is we are going to create a new prison. And I just shortly want to go over the process of this. There are several things that you can consider whenever building your prison. So for instance, your prison gender, or prisoner gender rather, you can have either male or female. And these are same-sex prisons. That is to say that you can only have one or the other. So the main difference, of course, is that females are capable of having babies, and this is something that might make the game a little bit more difficult. So we're not going to do that just yet, because that requires special accommodation. We also could choose our warden here. So we got this guy, the standard warden, that I don't know if there's any advantage to playing these days, but one that you might wish to start with is this one here, Safara Aknova, who I guess is Polish or Russian or something like that. Well, the advantage to her is that you can confiscate contraband, and the thing that is nice about that is normally you can do that, but she can actually make a sell off of contraband, so she is reasonably corrupt. That is, she likes to make money. And this is good if you're just starting out, because it will help you in generating money, not only because you can make money off of the cells, but then you can fine the prisoners directly, which is an additional source of income. There are three map sizes, the small, medium, and large, and I think the small is probably the best to work with if you're a new player. The reason for that is there's less to fill in. You could always expand your prison later, but when you're building, you want to have this thing walled off for obvious reasons. So we're going to go with the small one. It'll cost less money to do that. Then we're going to have the Fog of War. This is a default option, and it prevents you from seeing what's going on in your prison without guards. Generate Forced is good because it is a good source of money early on. And failure conditions will leave on, because that means that we can lose, and we don't want to do that. Other than that, we can generate lakes and buildings, which we will not do for the time being. We can turn on gangs, which will allow, or we can turn on gangs, but won't. And these basically allow for turf wars. And we also have events, which are things like, if you got a kitchen, it can be set on fire. Weather as well is a dynamic I haven't messed around with, so I'm not going to be showing that off yet. And then of course we're not going to do unlimited funds, because that sort of defeats the purpose of this tutorial. So you can see almost instantly we've got our prison going, and let's just pause the game by hitting space, and we will see a number of things. First of all, we have the CEO's letter that kind of gives us an idea of what we want to do, but I will go ahead and delete it because it takes room in the to-do list. Another thing you'll notice is we have prisoner uptake, and in 24 hours, or less than 24 hours rather, we will have 8 prisoners coming. Well, considering that our prison is not yet built, this is probably a bad idea. So I'm going to go to intake here by clicking on the report button, and then I'm going to set this to closed, and we will not receive any prisoners. Now, prisoners are how you make money in this game, or it's the best way to make money. But you'll notice too that we have this daily cash flow, and we've got 2 grand coming in and about 1.1 grand, maybe 1.2 going out. So that'll be good. Other things we'll want to do is click on this Grants tab, and we're going to start with an administration center and a basic detention center. So we can do that. Both of those right now have been taken up. So what we can do now is we can go here and we can start planning these things out. As luck would have it, we actually have a fairly decent map with a lot of trees on it. And there's a few things that we're going to need to do here, and that largely depends on how you want your prison to look. So I like to put things in the middle. So what I can do is I can take this walls tool, and of course our prison is going to look something kind of like a massive wall with buildings in between. Now, you might say, okay, well let me put a wall out here. That'll give me the most room, right? And you'll see the chalk outline being drawn there. The problem with this is that we can't build walls there essentially, because as it turns out, the game has to allow prisoners to escape, and they do that by putting these little tunnels, and when they exit the tunnel here, they will have to have a spot to put this. Otherwise, you could completely prevent escapes, and that is not something that the game likes. So, that's going to be one thing. Now, what we can do then is we can come one tile in, and this is perfectly legal, because now there is room for the escape tunnel to come in. So, what I like to do is I like to put my prison in the center of the map. And if we click on this guy, again, we'll not be putting anything down. We can get an idea of the size here of this map. This is 78 tiles vertically, and this here is 82 tiles. So if we want to put something in the center, like I do, then we divide those by 2, and that means, for instance, that this should be 39 tiles tall, and then because we have 82 here, it should be 41 wide. And we will see if that is in fact correct, if that is that one half of the map. And let me just, I'm having trouble moving my mouse here. There we go. If we can build a square of the exact same size, and we know that these dimensions are correct. And so it appears to be the case. We can see that that's the exact center there. Then we said it was 82, so it would be 41 on one side, like that, and 41 on the other. And this gives us the exact center of the map. So we can see if that works out. So that means we can move some stuff around. Now, what I personally prefer to do is have this one entranceway, and what we need to do is we need to go to the rooms real quick. We'll come back to this in a bit, but I'm just going to right click, and this will remove the designations here. If you've played a game like this, like Dwarf Fortress or Space DF9, then you'll note that you have rooms that you designate, and this is very similar here. We designate zones here. Now, we're going to have deliveries, which should be somewhere around here. And I'm going to put that way up here at the top for now. And we're going to leave a little bit of our road here. And what that'll do is whenever we start ordering equipment, that will allow us to put things in there. And that will be a good thing. Garbage, of course, is where we put our refuse, and let's just find that real quick. Sometimes I have trouble finding these things. The garbage is right here, but let's say I just couldn't find it. Well, I can click on this box here and type garbage, and that'll come up. Now we can put it on the very bottom here, or we could put it on the top. And if we do it like this, what'll happen is that whenever we drop things off, our garbage will be loaded at the same time. So that's a nifty little feature. We also want an exports room, or zone, and when we chop down these trees, what'll happen is that um, they will get put in these exports, and that'll make us money while we're building. And then we have one more here that we can put down. You will notice that we have a storage. Oh, pardon me. We have a storage room. And if we put this down, if we end up not needing something, this is where it'll go. So now that we've done that, we have pretty much created an entranceway here. And what I like to do is I like to come up here and for reasons that I'll explain here in a bit, I like to come through and I'm going to put in a little 4x4 area here with this little gap in the middle. This will be where our prisoners will come eventually to, I suppose, get processed. But we won't worry about that just for now, because what we're building here is an administration center. Now you can remove these gaps here. I find it helpful to remove those gaps just because of the fact that they create... Oh, that one's a little tall. They create interesting little bits here. And what I'm creating now are little office areas for our staff. If you have staff, there are special staff that need offices to operate. And because this design is a symmetrical design, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here and I'm going to mirror it. And there's advantages to both of these approaches here. Now, an important thing to keep in mind, that if you're concerned about the lag, then you are better off, making these things as compact as possible. So we're going to have some other things that we'll need here. For instance, we are going to need power. And I happen to know that the power generator by itself takes up 3x3. So we'll zone that in. But we can put capacitors in that as well. We can also, the capacitors, by the way, they allow us to increase our power with demand. So that's something important. Other things as well are that we also have a water pump that's 3x3. So we'll put that there. And we could wall this off if we want. I'm not going to because this isn't a secure area. And then we're going to need a place for our staff to come in and rest. And that requires, I believe, a 5x5 area. We can come by and adjust that later. But for now, we're going to leave that out. We're just going to come in and we are going to build a foundation. Now, a good thing as well to do while we're at it is to come down here and build a room like this. And we can decide what to do with that. Generally, there are many things actually we can do with that. But for now, we will begin with the foundation. So, we have two options for foundation. We have brick and concrete. For an administrative building, I think the brick looks better. You're going to notice something. First of all, we drag this out into a square area. And that means that, if we want to, if we want to build an odd shape, we have to build multiple foundations. Also, this will say requires entrance. And because of that, we're going to go ahead and put one in. So we will do like that. We can unpause the game now by hitting space, and you can see that we have taken some things here. You could go without the grants conceivably if you are truly interested in that idea, but we really should take them because we'll have about 30,000 to begin with, and then the grants add, well, let's just take a look and see how much they do add by going to the grants tab. This is 10,000 and 5,000, respectively. So that gives us a lot of money to work with. These guys are going to be dismantling things for now, and you can see our delivery trucks are coming in and bringing the materials that we need. Now, we could wait around for these guys to work, but instead I'm going to hit 3. And now we can see these guys putting everything together as soon as they can. They will tear down the trees that they need, and that'll bring us a little bit of extra income. If you don't want this feature, or if you want, I guess, a more hardcore game, then you can turn this feature off as you wish. But for now, we don't want or need it off. We want it on. You could also see that our doors are installed, and before too long, what'll happen is that these guys will complete their foundation, and they will have a free building. Now, I guess while this is happening, although it shouldn't take too long, they're dismantling a tree. Yeah, there we go. Let's just pause the game real quick. We can do a couple of things here. Notice that we had a bunch of lights put in, and that's kind of problematic because they're not in places where we want. So if we click on automatic light placement, we can turn that off. And then we can right click where the lights were installed, and that'll remove them. And I like to do that personally for 2 reasons. The first is that automatic light placement costs more money, in the sense that the lights aren't free. But there's also the fact that lights draw a slight amount of power. Well, now that we can do this, we really have 2 options here. And what we want to do to get our administrative center is 2 things. We want to build 2 offices, hire a warden, unlock finance, and hire an accountant. Now, at this point, we're pretty good because we don't need walls for this prison to operate. So I'm going to put down 2 offices here, and I'm going to leave one open here. We need desks, and we know we're going to need 2 of them ahead of time. So if you hit R, you can rotate these guys at will. We are going to need to put down some chairs and some filing cabinets as well. And these are all we really need for offices. It'll tell you, in fact, everything that you need in order for that. So this has a minimum of a 4x4 size, an office desk, a chair, a filing cabinet, and it's indoors. Now, of course, this won't be a valid office until these people come in and install everything. Also, it's important that we put lights in, and I'm going to do that now. You'll find those under objects. But then there's another thing too. We need power. And what we'll do there is we already have 1 power station. So we can do that. And I'm going to install this capacitor here. Now, you can have multiple capacitors. This one is not free. And so it'll be queued. You'll notice something peculiar, by the way, whenever we do this, that we'll need to take into account. But I'm going to throw in my water station as well. And my approach here is that I'm going to go ahead and install these cables down the center. And it'll cost a little bit of extra money, but it'll be worth it. And they'll take $220. We'll put down some large pipes as well. We'll get more into piping on the next episode. But what'll happen is these guys have a cable here. This guy has a cable as well. So we only have to put cables here. And when these guys complete their office, you'll see that fairly soon that this guy is now a valid office. We need to pause and hire our warden. Now this warden costs $200 per day, and we can only have one of them. But the thing is that we'll have $640 left. You'll also notice too that our money supply went down as soon as we unpaused the game, and that's because there were things that were not yet committed. Well, what we want to do now is we want to go to this bureaucracy window here, and we'll unlock finance. This is important because we want to unlock the finance as soon as possible. Also, I want you to notice that this warden went to this office. If you have more than one office designated, they will go to the office that is closest. So we're going to put this guy in here now. And you can note our progress. We are about 25% of the way through. Now we've got our cable up here. You'll notice that we are drawing a little bit of power. And in fact, we're drawing enough power to where I may want to put in another capacitor. But we have enough buffer to where we can tell that we're running out of power. We can put really up to, I believe it's 16. That's around all of the edges here. And power consumption is going to be a very important thing to manage. Now, as it turns out as well, we can go ahead and designate our staff room here. We'll see why here in a bit, because one of the more important things is that we're going to have an easy contract here. You can see we're done with this. I'm going to hire the accountant now, which will go here. And now what we immediately want to do is get these guys researching something. There are a number of things we can do here. Because, well, first of all, let me just show you real quick that when you go to reports, you can see now we have a bunch of other tabs unlocked here. So we can see the value of our prison. We can't sell it yet because it's not worth $50,000. You know, speaking of which, my goal for this initial part of the series is to sell a prison worth $1 million. So we'll try that, because that could be rather interesting. Now, we're going to have other things as well, because the one thing there, of course, is that with the prisoners, you know, doing their thing, we're going to need to, first of all, research things that we know are coming up. So I know there's a psychology contract coming up and a health contract, and we'll do that. But on top of that, we want the extra grant to come up. This person is now in an office, and we've completed that grant, which means that we can now come down here to the grants and pick another one. And I strongly recommend here that what we do is the staff well-being initiative, because you know, it's 5,000. We don't really, or 10,000. We don't really get anything forward here, but it's easy enough to complete, because what we can do now is we can come in here. We know what is required: a wide sofa and a drink machine. And notice it's only that. So we can put these things in here. This is where the staff will come to rest. So I'm not even, you'll notice at this point I'm not even worried about the walls, even though that'll become a big deal in the future. Now you're going to notice a couple of things here. We are going to have several guards here, and these require 100 per day. So that means in order to sustain this, we're going to really need to start thinking about prisoners. but that'll be okay. For now, I think maybe the best thing for us to do is, I guess, to begin thinking about other things that we might need as well. So, we're gonna need walls around the prison so that the prisoners just can't run off. And again, we've actually got three types. These perimeter walls are a bit big, or they're expensive rather. But we've got the brick walls here, which are a fourth of the cost. And so I'm going to come around here and I'm going to put down these brick walls. This is solely so that these people can't escape. Now I'm going to point something out here, that it's very easy to get into a situation to where you run out of money very quickly in this game, and then there are things that you can do to make it worse. As that arises, we will talk about that. But for now, we are going to get this guy scheduled, and what I'll do is I'll let these guys continue building, and we will see you at the beginning of the next episode so that we can begin building our basic detention center. Until then, this has been Thy Lord Root, and I will see you later.